John Allen is a columnist with Roll Call. He joins us now from our Washington bureau. John, I want to get your take on those comments that he made just now, saying that he's going to sue those women who said that he sexually assaulted them.
Well, not as good as the first Gettysburg Address, Rena. I think, look, Donald Trump is trying to intimidate other women who might have similar stories from coming out. He is trying to argue to women voters who are basically disgusted by what they've heard, not only about the sexual assault allegations, but simply the way that he speaks about women. I think he's trying to stem the damage from that. So Donald Trump took this opportunity, told the press that he was going to talk about his first 100 days in office, and used it as an opportunity to talk about how he wants to use the court system to settle scores, which is usually what somebody who loses does if they're a sore loser. So I don't know. It is insane to me that national battlefield and cemetery there were used for that purpose.
You know, it's something he does very often is threaten to sue. He even threatened to sue the New York Times over something that he didn't like that they published. Is this a winning strategy for someone who is down in the polls and has just a matter of weeks to try and get people on his side?
It's hard to explain, Rena, other than to say that by threatening to launch lawsuits, I think he probably believes that some people will think that if he's serious enough to start a lawsuit, that it means that he's telling the truth, because most people wouldn't just frivolously start lawsuits. But Donald Trump has a long history of that, so I'm not sure how believable it is.
When you heard the speech that he gave just a short time ago, anything substantive from the policy realm that caught your attention?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting that he essentially took his entire platform and said he was going to launch on it in the first 100 days. The promise that he made to talk about his first 100 days, he delivered on. He just didn't do it until the back end of the speech, I think, when most people probably weren't listening. So after he talked about suing people and talked about blaming the media and saying that Hillary Clinton shouldn't have been allowed to run for president, he actually did get into some specifics. He said, look, if you're going to add new regulations, you should get rid of 2 regulations. He said there should be a constitutional amendment for term limits on members of Congress. He went through some serious substantive policy proposals that sounded very much like what Republicans brought to Washington in 1994 in the contract with America. They weren't able to get much of that done. I don't think Donald Trump, if he wins the presidency, will be able to get much of his agenda done in terms of some of the reforms that he's offered. But at least he was out there talking about substantive issues.
Does it make a difference that we've seen key people in his administration just in the past week decide that they're going to step down?
I think that there's always a little bit of transition around election time. I think it's look, Donald Trump's not headed in the right direction in any of the polls anywhere. So that's he's in bad shape heading into this election.
We know his campaign has suggested this month that it's going to focus less on expanding its base and trying to focus on the suppression of voter turnout that he says, suppressing in particular Clinton voters. What's the strategy with that one, John?
Well, I think they believe that it's very difficult for them at this point to add to Donald Trump's base. If you look at polling, he's got a ceiling that is in the low 40s, and sometimes he's even in the high 30s in major national 4-way polls with Gary Johnson, Libertarian, and Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate, included in those. So if he's unable to drive up the number of people that are going to vote for him, his only choice is to try to drive down the number of people voting for Hillary Clinton. I think at this point the negatives on Hillary Clinton are pretty well baked into the pie. The majority of the country doesn't believe that she's honest or trustworthy according to polling, and she's still beating Trump by a significant margin in national polls and in most of the battleground states. So he's got his work cut out for him if he's going to try to get people to not show up. The problem for him, of course, is that he has made himself such a lightning rod for so many elements of the Democratic constituency and for a significant portion of the establishment Republican set that people are motivated to come out and vote against him.
John Allen with Roll Call. Hey, John, thanks for spending your Saturday morning with us.
Always my pleasure, Rena.